Welcome back. Here's a quick question. When a Docker container starts, what exactly happens inside it? Which folder does it start in? And which command does it run by default? The answers are in three powerful Dockerfile instructions: work directory instruction, CMD, and entry point. These are not just basics, they are must know concepts for DevOps interviews and real world container management. In the previous video, we built a custom Docker image using from instruction, copy instruction, and expose. Now, let's take the next step and control where and how our containers run. Let's start with the work directory instruction, which sets the default directory inside a container. Let me go to the Visual Studio Code. I have created a Docker file with three instructions: from instruction, work directory instruction, and a copy instruction. Let's build the Docker image. Docker build -t. I'm giving the name as work directory demo dot. Let's check Docker images. Now let me clear the screen. Docker images. So we have work directory demo image created. Let's check Docker desktop. We have work directory demo image with the latest tag. Let's go to Visual Studio Code again and let's do Docker run -it interactive mode and --name. I'm giving the name as WD1 and we need to pass the image name. Let's copy this and do sh. Now we are inside the container. Let's try ls. We can see message.txt. See this copy instruction, copy the message.txt into /app folder. Let's check pwd. So we are at /app. So this work directory instruction, WORKDIR /app, auto creates the folder /app, and all the subsequent instructions like the copy instruction or run instruction, CMD, happen inside this folder by default. So this is done. Now you know how work directory works. Let's exit this. Let me clear the screen. Why this work directory is important? Because it provides a clean, predictable folder structure inside the container /app, and it avoids confusion and messy paths, and no need to use run command like cd/app, and it's a best practice in almost all production Docker files because it improves readability and maintainability. Let's check the CMD instruction. Let me add CMD instruction in the Docker file. CMD, and we will pass like cat command, and let's give message.txt. So here I have message.txt which shows hello from Docker WORKDIR, and let's do Docker build. Let me save this. Docker build -t, and I'm giving the name as CMD demo dot. Let's check Docker images. So we have image created, CMD demo. Let's go back. Let me clear the screen. Docker Docker images, and let's run this. Docker run --name. I'm giving the name as C1, and we need to pass the image name CMD demo. See here, hello from Docker work directory. So this is the output, and CMD instruction here is cat message txt. So it printed whatever the message we have in the message txt. CMD is soft, meaning you can completely replace it at runtime. Let's try that. Docker run. So I'm giving the name as C2, and we need to pass the image name. And here I want to pass echo hi from runtime. Let's see what happens. See, hi from runtime. If you don't pass anything, Docker uses the default CMD. If you do pass a command, it replaces CMD completely. Why this CMD is important? Because it's useful for utility containers or default startup tasks. For example, a base Alpine image might have a CMD like sh, so it opens a shell if you don't specify anything. Let's quickly check the Docker Hub. I opened the Docker Hub. Let's search for Alpine. So we have this Alpine Docker official image. I'm clicking on this. If you go to latest or any version, you can see the Dockerfile here and the CMD as /bin/sh. So a base Alpine image have this CMD, and it opens a shell if you don't specify anything. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code again, and now we have built and run through CMD. Let's check entry point. Let me clear the screen. Docker, let's edit the Docker file. Entry point, and I'll give it as cat. Let me delete this. Let's build the Docker image, docker build -t, and I'll give the name as entry demo dot Docker images. Let me clear the screen, and let's do Docker run --name. Let's give the name as E1, and we will pass the name of the image entry demo, and we will pass message.txt. See, hello from Docker work directory. Let's check internally what happened. Entry point cat which is a fixed command. Runtime argument is message.txt is added automatically. So the final executed command is cat message.txt. This is the output. Let's try with a different file. Docker run --name. I'm giving it as e2 and we need to pass the image name entry demo, and let me give the etc alpine release. Let's hit enter. We see the version. So here /etc/alpine release replaced the argument, but cat as entry point still stays fixed. The entry point cannot be replaced easily. So now the command became cat /etc/alpine release and it printed the alpine version. Let's check whether we can replace the entry point or not. Let's try that. Docker run --name. I'm giving it as e3 and we will pass the image name entry demo, and let's try giving echo. See the output, it says cat can't open echo, no such file or directory. Docker treated this echo as a file name because entry point cat was still there. It is locked in place. Let's try replacing the entry point forcefully. So the only way to replace entry point completely is by using the entry point flag. Let's try that. Docker run --entry point, and we are replacing it with echo, and we need to pass the image name demo, and let's give some message. Hi Docker. Let's try this. See, the output is hi Docker. So what Docker does internally is, normally the container would start with entry point from the Dockerfile, like cat in our earlier example. But by adding --entry point echo, you override the entry point and make it run echo instead. Hi Docker is passed as the argument to echo. So why the entry point is important? Because it guarantees that the container always runs its main process. It's ideal for services like web servers, database servers, or background workers. Almost every official Docker Hub image uses entry point to define its core behavior. We will verify that in the Docker Hub, but let's try the combination like the entry point plus CMD together. Let me clear the screen. Let me edit the Docker file. So I have the entry point. Now I will add the CMD instruction as well. Let's try this. Docker build -d. I'll give the name as combined demo dot docker images. Let me clear the screen. Docker images, and let's run docker run hyphen name. I'm giving the name as CMD ENTRYPOINT 1, so CE1, and need to pass the image name. What's the image name? Combined demo. Let's take this and run this. Hello from Docker work directory. This is the output. So Docker combines both the instructions, cat instruction and the message.txt, which is the CMD instruction. So the final instruction became cat message.txt, and it printed the contents inside the message.txt file. Let's override the CMD argument and verify. Docker run hyphen name. I'm giving like CE2, and we need to pass the image name, combined demo. Let's give that, and I would like to override CMD, so I'm giving like /etc/alpine release. Let's check the output. See, it printed the version. So we are able to successfully override the CMD argument. And the entry point cat stays fixed, and runtime argument, this /etc/alpine release, replaces the CMD default message.txt. Let's try replacing the entry point forcefully. Docker run hyphen entry point. That's the flag we need to pass. Replaced with echo, and let's pass the image name and give some echo statement. Hello Docker. Let's check the output. See, using hyphen entry point, it completely replaces the entry point. Final command here is just echo hello Docker. So the entry point plus CMD pattern is used in most production ready images, and it gives developers flexibility while ensuring the container always has a clear fixed purpose. Now let me go to the Docker Hub and we will verify the predefined images. Let me check Redis. We go to the artifact and check latest, and if you see the Dockerfile, it has both entry point and CMD instruction present. So CMD defines a default command that can be completely replaced at runtime, and entry point defines a fixed main command where runtime arguments are added, not replaced. And when we combine entry point and CMD, we get a flexible production ready pattern used by almost every official Docker Hub image like Redis. Let's look at one of the most common Docker interview questions. What's the difference between CMD and entry point? Here, CMD sets a default command that runs when the container starts, and entry point sets the fixed main command that always runs when the container starts. CMD can be completely replaced and entry point not replaced. CMD is soft and optional, entry point hard and locked in place. And CMD, it is used for the default behavior or fallback commands, and entry point defines the core identity of the container. Let's take an example like a restaurant. Think of it like a restaurant menu. The entry point is the fixed dish like pizza. This restaurant always serves pizza no matter what. CMD is the default topping like cheese. If you don't specify anything, you get cheese by default. But you can replace it with mushrooms or peppers, you can do so. So the interview ready answer would be CMD sets a default command that runs when no other command is specified, but it's completely replaced if you pass something in Docker run. Entry point defines a fixed main command that always runs, and any runtime argument are added to it, not replaced. Most production images combine entry point and CMD. Entry point defines the core process like a startup script. CMD provides default arguments that can be overridden easily. So if we see the official Docker Hub image of Redis, entry point has docker entry point.sh. So this is like a startup script, and CMD provides the default arguments. Here in this case, Redis server. So in this video, we learned 3 key Dockerfile instructions that control how containers behave when they start. Work directory sets the default working directory inside the container. CMD defines a default command that can be completely replaced at runtime. And entry point defines a fixed main command where runtime arguments are added, not replaced. And when we combine entry point and CMD, we get a flexible production ready pattern used by almost every official Docker Hub image. In the next video, we will solve another real world problem, data loss. You will learn how to use Docker volumes to persist logs and databases so that your data does not disappear when a container is stopped or deleted. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe and comment below, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next tutorial.